When a site becomes as overwhelmingly successful as Node/ and your project are becoming, you'll need to take mind to keep it as secure as possible. While no amount of security will deter the most determined of attackers, there are a few things we can do that are the digital equivalent of not leaving the front door open with a big sign that says "Hacks or Me." In today's episode, we're going to learn about an attack vector called cross-site request forgery and a means to deal with it. What is cross-site request forgery? We're going to call it CSRF for short. I can't think of a better way to explain what it is than to see it in action. Here's a look at a route I hope you will not mimic. And then code that actually implements the route. There are many layers of wrong here. Take a minute to see if you can figure them out. This route is simulating a rather destructive action. Destructive in the sense of modifying state in a serious way. And notice that it's behind a get. That is a really bad idea, as you'll see in just a minute. Anyway, this route is simulating being the endpoint for a financial transaction. Let's see how the attack actually works now. To do that, let's head back to our routes file. At line 19, we see portalrouter.use/ensureauthenticated. And if you recall, our ensure authenticated middleware requires that users have logged in before letting them through. So this route can't be hit unless the user is logged in. So let's log the user in quick. Now our first attack vector here is pretty simple. Let's have a look at some code that will run a website we'll refer to as totallylegitforum.com. As of this writing, the domain is available, so have at it if you like. With all the charm and grace of a 419 scam, this website is very convincing that it's a safe place to visit. But suppose someone posted the image that we see here. You can't actually see me, but I'm putting some major air quotes around image there. What is the browser going to do? It has no idea that the URL we gave there is not in fact an image file, and it just blindly executes the request. It's also perfectly legal to put query params on an image URL, because there's nothing special about image URLs. In fact, that's how analytics packages track your every movement. A single pixel image with a bunch of query params. Notice that these params match what our server is looking for. Our server, in its turn, has no idea that this request is coming from an image tag, so it just blindly executes the attack. And remember how our user is logged in? Well, let's see what happens when we run this. I'm going to use a neat Python command in this Node screencast. I'm in the directory with the Totally Legit Forums page in it, which is linked to in the show notes, and I run python-m simple HTTP server. I don't know Python at this moment in time, but dang if this isn't the sweetest command. It runs a simple HTTP server in the current directory, exposing it on port 8000. And now we hit the site at http://totallylegitforum.com 8000 vector.html. I've used a Etsy host file entry, so you'll have to point your browser to wherever you are running the Totally Legit Forum. First, we see that the image is broken because that endpoint doesn't actually return an image. But to viewers, they probably just think, dang, that image is broken. But what does our server think of this? Yikes, that's not good. This attack originated from somewhere outside our own site. No one hacked anything on our site, and now the attackers are dancing around chanting, "We've got $5,000! We've got $5,000!" So what happened here? As Wikipedia states, CSRF exploits the trust that a site has in a user's browser. When you make a request like ours here, your browser sends along with the request any cookies that it has for that site. That's why even though this endpoint is hidden behind an auth wall, the image request was still able to reach the endpoint. All our server saw was an incoming request to dangerous action that had with it a valid auth cookie. And that's why too the attacker doesn't know what our cookie is and also hasn't gained our login credentials. The attack exploits the trust that a site has in a user's browser. Obviously, it's pretty easy to shut down the image-based attack. Change the route to a post like so. Now when we try to use the image vector, we just get a 4 of 4 as we can see in Firebug. So the image doesn't work, but that doesn't mean we've locked this down. What if instead of an image, the bad website had a form and somehow got us to click it? Uh-oh, it still gets through. Our app is still completely vulnerable. We can't just go and remove this route because what happens behind the action is a legitimate function of the application, but at the same time we don't want hacksaws to be able to trick our browsers into doing the wrong thing. The solution to protecting the post request is a bit more involved than what we did for the get request, and we're out of time for this episode. So stay tuned for next time when we'll see how to protect our apps against this attack and how it's easy to do so with Express and middleware. In this episode, we saw the anatomy of a cross-site request forgery attack, or CSRF for short. We saw how it's based on the trust that sites have for users' browsers. Browsers just send whatever cookies they have, and sites just trust that. We also saw one simple fix, which is to not put so-called destructive actions behind a GET request. If it modifies state, it ought not be a GET request. Now you may have noticed that pulling off an attack like this would require non-trivial knowledge of the underlying system and a user who happens to be logged into it. That's a rare intersection, so this vulnerability isn't quite like how Heartbleed was. Nonetheless, a successful attack has the potential to be catastrophic, and the fix, as we'll see next time, is so simple. It's AppSec 101 stuff. And to be clear, there is nothing node-specific about CSRF attacks. This applies to any web server technology, so this episode is a portable one that you could share with anyone. Until next time, happy coding.